few years ago, I had the great pleasure and the great honor of recording this song with a hero of mine, the legendary Mavis Staples. And I kind of wrote this song to remind myself of the legacy of very small gestures, some things that we do which can have very powerful impacts. Mavis Staples, as you know, and her family, the Staples singers, her father, Pop Staples, and her brothers and sisters, they used to sing before speeches during the American Civil Rights Movement in the 1960s. Now, as you may or may not know, I come from Ireland. I think I mentioned it. And that civil rights movement that happened here in the 1960s, that directly impacted and directly inspired the civil rights movement that happened in Northern Ireland very, very shortly afterwards. In a time and place where not every citizen had the equal right to vote. And I wrote this song to kind of remind myself that I know there's a lot of protests in the news at the moment. There's a lot of student protests in the news, but depending on who you listen to and who represents it, protests could be at times a much vilified thing. But I think it's important to remember that there's so much that we take for granted in our everyday life, part of our quality of life, that at some point, at some time, people have to organize, collect together, and work hard for, push hard for, you know. I mean, everything we take for granted. We take for granted our democracy. We take for granted the fact that we have a weekend to look forward to. And once upon a time, it was a movement of people who had to push and struggle to make a weekend an actual thing. The fact that we have a pension is something that people had to protest for and work for, you know, and organize for. And when I talk about these small little things that have a big impact, I think genuinely, when the world kind of changes for the better, it's just people showing up for their neighbors in a very, very human, compassionate way. In the same way that we do it for our family members every single day of our lives. We see the experience of our brothers and sisters, we see the experience of a good friend of ours, a dear friend of ours, our parents, something maybe we didn't know that was happening in a friend's life. And what was abstract and sort of out of the way and out of sight and out of mind becomes very real when you see it in the lived experience of your brother or your sister or your son or your daughter, you know, of your kid or your siblings. And I genuinely think when people just switch on and bear honest witness to the experience of their neighbours, amazing things can happen. Those small little acts of love and solidarity, when people do that collectively, it changes the world. I'm not being lofty about it. I don't think there's any high concept about it. I just think that's what happens. And I think that's what happened when everybody decided in our collective democracies that every single citizen should have the right to vote. Or once upon a time, people recognized, you know what, I think women need to have the right to vote. Women should have the right to vote. Or people in a society can recognize the experience of their sister, of their daughter, and say, you know what, I would want women to have control over their reproductive systems. You know what I mean? To have reproductive rights. Or we would want our LGBTQ plus siblings to have the very same rights as us. You know? Again, it's that recognition of this is your lived experience, I'm here, I won't abandon you. And in the 1980s, enough people saw what was happening in apartheid South Africa. At the time South Africa was an apartheid state, enough people stopped buying products. They said, I'm not going to buy products from that place. And investment drew out of that place. And very, very quickly, apartheid South Africa was no longer an apartheid state. Collective action is in the individual sense, it seems small, but when people do it together, it's incredible. Or just like at the moment, people all around the world are saying, and we're blessed to have democratic representation at home and abroad, saying we wouldn't want to see the kind of violence that we're seeing on our TV screens befall anybody on the planet. We wouldn't want to see people in the Middle East living without safety and security. But of course, as we would for anybody, just on a human level, we would want to see Palestinians free from occupation, free from violence, staple, you know. And this peace movement, like any peace movement, is just, I think people just activate its empathy and its compassion, and it's something that's so human. I'll just leave you with as you know, Ireland has its own history with occupation. I won't even begin, but there's a revolutionary by the name of James Connolly. He once wrote that there's no revolution that is complete without its poetical expression. It's poetical expression. And to me, I think Mavis Staples and Alison Russell, who I'm blessed to share this tour with, have always embodied the poetical expression of a revolution that is compassionate, a revolution of love, a revolution of honest witness, and a revolution of a human heart, you know, that we would much rather see in this, more of in this world. And I think that's powerful.